What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Now this has been a pretty difficult week, a tough week for my family. We had a funeral early in the week, which is obviously difficult, and there have been a number of other life challenges along the way, but importantly we have overcome them, and we overcame them together, which is a great feeling to have. But there are a number of things that I'm involved with, as you well know, that a number of businesses, a number of projects that take a lot of my time and dedication. And this week, it's been a real struggle to keep up with those. You'll have even noticed I haven't produced many videos, which annoys me because I love doing it. But rather than end the week on a low point, I decided today was going to be different. I was going to get up early. I got up at 6 o'clock. I got outside and I went for a run around the lake. Freezing cold temperatures. I saw the ladies. Remember the ladies who do the swimming every day in December? They were there at 6 a.m. in the lake having a swim. Massive respect to them, and it kind of re-energized me and re-inspired me to push on with my run. I got back feeling great because today I was spending most of the day sat here in the car, which on the face of it seems like a very dull way to spend a Friday. 8 hours of driving up and down motorways. But the reason that I'm spending 8 hours in the car today, well, that is exciting. I'm going to collect my daughter from university in Manchester, someone who I haven't seen for a long time, and that is the carrot dangling at the end of this journey, and I'm excited. I did manage to listen to FP1 from Abu Dhabi on the radio, which is something I don't normally do. Actually, it's quite a nice way to do it, listening to the dulcet tones of the commentators talking their way through the action on track, something that I've done before but actually rarely ever actually listen to because I'm always watching it on television or I'm there. So that was a nice experience. FP1, of course, relatively unrepresentative of the rest of the weekend, given that the qualifying and the race are done in the dark under the floodlights and very different temperatures to the way that FP1 is. So a little bit like Bahrain, FP1 is one of those sessions that's a little bit of a nothing session. You can learn stuff about your car with the aero rakes and sensors on the car that you'll have seen them all have, learning, gathering data about crucial sensitive areas as part of the development of next year's cars around the floors and diffusers, those kind of things. So important in that way, not very important in terms of how they prepare for the rest of this weekend. And that's why I guess the fact that Lewis Hamilton had issues with his brakes, Daniel Ricciardo had issues, I think, with fuel pressure. Those things are frustrating, but they won't really hamper the rest of the weekend too much for them. Oh, it's so good to have my eldest daughter Lexi back home again, you know. Bringing a member of the family back is such a lovely feeling, and that, I guess, is to some extent what those at Mercedes feel like, what Lewis Hamilton feels like at Williams. They probably feel the same about having George Russell back. These are the places where these guys belong. And all right, George Russell may be there on a bit of a short-term stopgap before he takes a giant leap up the grid, but that is his home right now, and those people are all the people that have made him, given him the opportunities that he's had this year to impress. So he owes a lot to Williams, Williams owe a lot to him, and I guess having them all back together for the final race of the season is probably how it should be. Oh my goodness, qualifying, just watch quali, what an amazing session. What's best about all this is it tees up an incredible race tomorrow. Stunning lap from Max Verstappen, stunning lap from Lando Norris, both McLarens in fact. How close was it at the front between the two Mercs and Max? And do you know what that shows for me is over the course of 2020 how close these things are when they are at the absolute limit between particularly those three drivers, those two cars, particularly post the banning of quali modes, party modes, which has really brought that Mercedes-powered team's advantage down at that moment on a weekend in qualifying. Now, there is nothing between them on a certain day, on a certain track, when the conditions fall right and the drivers get it right. And that's what happened today. The drivers, particularly Max, got it right. He's dragged everything out of that, and as I said, Lando as well in his car also what looked like an almost perfect lap. So it tees up an amazing race tomorrow with the guys at the front, and if Max can get and stay ahead, this is a track that's not the easiest to overtake on. If Alex Albon on the soft tyres can get an incredible launch, make the most of those sticky, grippy, soft tyres in the early part of the race, he could get amongst it and actually help Max out, which is what he needs, because at the moment that was a disappointing run from Alex on a softer, faster set of tyres, and still he wasn't able to get close enough to really be a team player in the race tomorrow. So either way, I'm looking forward to it. The battle for this third place in the Teams Championship is hotting up. You know, McLaren have done exactly what they needed to do today, and I think the race is literally anybody's tomorrow when it comes to finding out who's going to come out on top in that battle. So many things to look forward to. Can't wait.
He's pointing slightly to try and cover off Valtteri.
Here we go.
As we have 5 lights for the final time ahead of the drivers, it's lights out, and away we go. Verstappen ahead of Bottas.
Start.
Getting a good start, but behind Lewis Hamilton.
Yes,
Signs are neck and neck coming into the first corner. Down the pit straight to complete lap 15 championship. Here we are on board then with Lance Stroll.
Did you see that? Out of the corner, how much vibrations?
Lewis Hamilton saying it's great to be back in the car again.
Well, after I think what we can all agree was an extraordinary 2020 Formula One season, made possible by some extraordinary effort and commitment from some extraordinary people, what a disappointment it was to have a very ordinary final race of the year. But then what do we expect? It's Abu Dhabi. I think I said after qualifying that we have, after a great qualifying, we've teed up what could be an epic Grand Prix. Couldn't have been further wrong, could I? But that's not to say there weren't some great performances. Brilliant race from Max Verstappen, just controlled it right from the off, did everything he and the team needed to do, which was, you know, exactly what you try and do as a Formula One team. You're not trying to entertain the crowd, you're trying to win the Grand Prix through whatever means necessary, and that's exactly what they did. Mercedes had no answer to them. A lot of people I've seen message me on socials going, look, what happened to Mercedes? You know, was this some sort of deliberate ploy to spice up the race, to get people off their back at the end of the season? Absolutely not. This was just a Grand Prix where, yes, maybe their power unit may have hampered them to some extent, having to nurse it to the end of a season, whereas perhaps we've just got to accept that the Honda this year, the Honda power unit, was actually more reliable. I think I'm right in saying they were the only manufacturer not to take any power unit penalties for changing bits earlier than their suggested lifespan should be over the course of this season. That's an incredible achievement. Mercedes weren't able to match that across all of their cars and customer cars. You know, we shouldn't be so surprised that that's a dull race, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It kind of always is. It's a circuit that, you know, for all the glitz and glamour, all the money that's gone into it and the effort that must have been put into designing and creating what is a very special place, I have to say, to be there at that event, which I've been many times, you know, is spectacular. It's one of the most spectacular. But in terms of creating an entertaining race, it just doesn't lend itself to that kind of nature of racing. It's got maybe one decent overtaking opportunity on the track at the end of that long straight, but that's kind of it. And the other big factor is that the penalty, the time penalty for making a pit stop is so great that even yesterday, when, you know, the optimum way of getting to the flag quickest would have been to make a stop, another stop, a 2-stop race to get yourself onto fresher, faster tyres late on in the race. And we might have seen some action, we might have seen people attacking each other, but the reality was, because we had a safety car early on that forced people into an early pit stop, there was nobody willing to take the risk of going into a very long pit lane with a very long and slow pit lane exit just to put that fresh set of tyres on a circuit where there's no guarantees they would be able to get past anyway. And therefore, it forced everybody into a very dull, very predictable, very boring processional one-stop race where the cars were operating at an absolute fraction of what they were able to operate at in terms of pure performance yesterday. So maybe it's no surprise. We line the cars up in the order that they are fastest after qualifying. We then say we'll set them off all together at the flag, the fastest cars at the front, the slowest cars at the back. Is it any wonder that that's the sort of order we end up finishing the race in?